Hello everybody, my name is Will from You Know Nothing and welcome back to another Game of Thrones video. Now I've not uploaded in about a month on this channel since the season 7 of Game of Thrones has finished, and one of my videos has gone like semi-viral. It's got over 300,000 views, which is insane, and we're on 1.2 thousand subscribers, which is a lot more than I ever could have hoped for or even thought that I was going to get when I started this channel up halfway through season 7, which was a pretty dumb time to start off the channel. But anyway, here we are. I'm going to carry on doing some of these videos between now and the next season. As you all know, there's a huge wait between the next season, so if you've got any ideas of videos that I could do, like this one, let me know in the comments down below. Hit the like button if you do enjoy, and subscribe to my channel if you're finding this channel from this video. Thank you very much, and let's get into it. So Daenerys' main dragon, Drogon, has grown dramatically in the 7 seasons that we've seen of Game of Thrones. But is he as big as the legendary Balerion, the Black Dread? So those of you who have just seen the TV show will have seen the skull of Balerion the Black Dread in some of the crypts at King's Landing in season 7, where Cersei goes down and Qyburn shows her the new scorpion that he's got, that's the weapon that they hope is going to take out Drogon. But if you've looked more into the history of Game of Thrones, into Westeros, then you'll probably know who Balerion the Black Dread is. So Balerion is one of 5 dragons that the Targaryens took from Valyria, where they used to live with loads of dragon lords, to Dragonstone. When the Doom of Valyria happened, which was an apocalyptic event that no one really knows what happened, but people think it's to do with some volcanoes that were in Valyria, and the Targaryens escaped. So the description of Balerion on the Wikipedia page is that Balerion was the largest of all the Targaryen dragons. His fire was black as his scales, his wingspan so vast that entire towns would fall under his shadow when he passed overhead. His teeth were long as swords, and his jaws were large enough to swallow an aurochs whole, which is like a cow, or even one of the hairy mammoths that was said to roam the cold wastes up north. Pretty scary dragon. Aegon the Conqueror, who was the Targaryen who conquered Westeros and became the first king of the 7 kingdoms, rode Balerion as his own. So he wasn't only ridden by Aegon, he was also ridden by Aegon's second son, Maegor. So Balerion also actually forged the Iron Throne with his fire, which is pretty sick. So Balerion finally died at the ages of between around 200 and 220 years old. So Balerion was huge, but is Drogon as big as him? Short answer is no, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth of how big Balerion actually was compared to Drogon. But comparing them at this stage isn't exactly fair, seeing as Balerion lived to 200 plus years old and Drogon is only around 6 years old at the moment. So in season 7 episode 4 at the end, Drogon gets hit by a spear and Daenerys drops down off him to try and retrieve the spear out of his neck. So we can kind of see a visual representation of how big Drogon is compared to Daenerys, and because Balerion's skull is in season 7 as well, we can compare that to the height of Cersei and we can kind of figure out how big they are. So I've got this one as well, which is kind of a head-on view of the skull, which is more like what we saw with Balerion in the crypt with Cersei. So I've scaled Daenerys down so her head is kind of the same size. I've then moved Daenerys into more of a head-on roll against his skull so we can see how big he is against Daenerys, and she kind of goes up to his eye level. Whereas if we move over to Cersei, with Balerion in the crypt, Cersei just goes up to his nostril, and if we put a line in, it kind of goes up to like the second spiky thing on the left. So if we look at the actors that play these 2 characters, Emilia Clarke is 1.57 meters tall, and Lena Headey is 1.66 meters tall, so 9 centimeters of difference. If we also look at a picture of these 2 actors standing together, we can see that the actor of Cersei is kind of like a whole forehead bigger. So that's basically what I've done and put them together so we can see. So we've got Drogon head on and we've got Daenerys to see how big Daenerys is in terms of Drogon's head. And then I've put Cersei next to her in relative scale of how big Cersei is to Daenerys. So we know that Cersei basically goes up to Balerion's nose and the second spiky thing, as I call it. So I've put Balerion in next to Cersei in scale of how big Cersei was in the crypt. And now we can finally kind of see how big Balerion's skull is compared to Drogon's skull. And it looks quite a lot bigger. So I did some work in Photoshop and figured out that approximately if we increase the size of Drogon's skull by 75%, it gets to around about the same size as Balerion. So if we're assuming that everything is 75% bigger, let's figure out the wingspan of Drogon. So back to Season 7, Episode 4, I've scaled down Daenerys using the red picture that we've got here, and then moved her across one wing of Drogon, and it shows that there's 18 Daeneryses per wing. So if we times that by 2, we get 36.
Quick maths!
And we know that Emilia Clarke is 1.66 meters tall, so if we do 36 times 1.66, we get 59.76 meters. Let's just round it up to 60 meters. So Drogon, according to my calculations, which are not 100% accurate, but I'd say they're quite accurate for what we're basing it off on. Drogon has a wingspan of about 60 meters. So going by the 75% rule, if we add 75% of 60, which is 45, onto 60, we get 105 meters, which, going by my theory and my calculations, would be the wingspan of Balerion, the Black Dread. So let's compare it to some things that we might be able to kind of see the scale of these dragons. So a football field isn't always the same size, but usually it is around about 100 meters in length. So here we can see Drogon with the wingspan of around about 60 meters on the football field. Whereas if we increase that by 75% to get Balerion, he covers the whole length of a football pitch. That's pretty scary. So let's then compare it to a jumbo jet, which is a Boeing 747. They're about 70 meters in length, and I've added that here. So Balerion is a lot bigger than a Boeing 747. Now we can kind of understand how he made shadows over whole towns. Dragons are scary, man. However, going on the fact that Drogon is only 6 years old, I have a feeling that if Drogon doesn't die, he will probably be bigger than Balerion and go down in history as the largest dragon ever.